Welcome to Recovery Unfiltered. I'm Larry.
You sit on the toilet, don't you? Use that as your meditation.
I'm Rob. Not our wives. Nobody listening to this podcast has eaten a shit sandwich. They didn't have a hand to make it.
Welcome back, Rob.
Welcome back, Larry.
Hey, we re-recorded that. Hopefully the next time we have a podcast, I'll have that reset. So you don't have a... Oh!
Punchline.
Hey, you know what? Having a friend like you is probably the most precious thing a man can have, because I literally called you about 2 hours ago and said, Rob, I got a family member here at the house. I want to record. Get your ass over here. And you said, on my way, brother.
On my way.
On my way. You know what, Rob? It's been that way ever since we started this, man. Every time when I called and asked you, do you want to be on this podcast with me? And you didn't even hesitate. You said, absolutely. So yeah, I got a guest in here today. I'm going to bring him in here in just a minute, but I want to catch up just a little bit with you, Rob. You, what's going on?
What's going on? Well, I got some step work to do today.
Yes, sir.
I got to speak next month. I don't care to.
And you took over.
And I'm taking over the Big Book study on Thursday nights in Oakdale.
Attaboy.
I was asked to do that. So
were you asked, or were you looking to get back involved?
I was asked. Susan, who kind of runs things over there, some certain things, text me.
Voluntold?
No, she asked, and if it was anybody but her, I wouldn't have done it.
Would you have said no to AA?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes, on a Thursday, because Thursdays are step work. Monday's mine, Tuesday's Bible study. Monday's ours. Yeah. Tuesday's Bible study.
Right.
Wednesday, Thursday's step work. God fills those up. Friday's loader, and weekends are mine.
I was kind of surprised. You when you texted me and said that you were going to be doing that, I was kind of shocked.
Wait, I think it was a God thing, because she reached out and asked, and I said, okay, I'll do it.
Hey, we had another buddy, and who is fairly green in this. And had a grandson really go off the deep end as far as medically. And the precious thing about it is he absolutely stayed in touch with us. And I don't think he could have done that a month ago. Oh no, he'd have been. Yeah. He'd he had that spiritual awakening.
Well, he did the work. He did the steps.
Right.
What was the first text he sent us to the group?
Right.
I'm grateful I'm sober.
Right.
So I can be here for my family.
Right.
Didn't even think about drinking, of course.
No.
Drinking is not our problem.
He had that spiritual awakening, but at Mary and Matt's wedding, he was struggling. You watch, that's the best thing about this recovery, man. But
he was there.
He was present, struggling, but I haven't had a chance to see him face to face, and I'm excited. I thought I was going to get to see him Monday night.
Don't stop smiling. I were with him the other day, and Jamie, his wife, says, Rob, you don't stop smiling. And this guy never smiled. He was just stone faced.
Yeah.
So, it's a God thing.
I haven't had a chance to see him since he kind of had that spiritual awakening and started coming, it started kind of got that awakening, and I haven't had a chance to see him, and I was hoping to see him Monday night because I've been gone for 3 weeks, right? We had talked about, we're recording this coming Sunday, our normal recording day is we normally record on Sunday. And we got a couple great guys coming in that are going to sit with us to go over some topics. But like I said, I had this family member who I love dearly, and I've talked to her multiple times about coming in on my podcast because I love her story, that the battle she went through and everything. So guest, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Laurel, and I am not an alcoholic. I am what you would call codependent. From the time I was 2 until I want to say I was in my 40s, my dad was an alcoholic. And one day he just quit. I feel bad that I never asked him what caused that.
To quit?
Yeah, I never talked to him
How
about
old was he when he quit, Laurel?
He is a different person. I have 4 children, and 3 of them know Grandpa the alcoholic, and the youngest one knows Grandpa the best friend.
Wow. How old was he when he just quit?
60s.
And as you know, he never went to an AA, nothing, just something.
He must have went to AA because when he passed on and I was cleaning his house, I found his chip.
Oh, wow.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
How many?
I just found 1 chip.
Okay.
So, but he'd gone.
How long after he quit did he pass?
Probably 10 years.
Oh, wow. So he was sober for a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, somewhere in there. But yeah, Jamie never knew, my youngest son, he never knew Grandpa the alcoholic.
Wow.
That's awesome, actually.
That is pretty cool. But
what kind of alcoholic are we talking? Was it verbal, abusive, physical? Absentee father, kind of like I was?
No, he was never absentee. He was there for us, but he drank until he passed out. He was not socially aware of how his alcoholism affected us, nor did he act as though it really mattered to him. He was going to drink. He put us in several humiliating situations. I can tell you, I think some of my favorite memories was I used to love to go fishing with him right up until he would get drunk, pass out in the only bathroom on the barge. And then there'd be a long line of people pounding on the door trying to get in. And I'd be like, yeah, that's not my dad. I'm not with him.
Well, we're going to get into some more of those stories, Laurel. And the reason why I asked Laurel to come is because I've known Laurel and Scotty, her husband, is my wife's cousin. And I've known them for forever. Well, I started dating Katie in 1988, and I've known Scotty and Laurel started she was there about the same time. We all kind of started going into the family to see, we weren't very smart, Laurel. We should have ran.
No, you were blessed. You got lucky.
Are you saying you weren't?
And on my part, Robert should have ran.
That's the family was dynamics is pretty cool, right? I got to meet Scott like very first thing Katie and I had only been dating maybe 4 or 5 months, and we went down for Thanksgiving is where we went down. And
this after your wreck, obviously.
Oh yeah, no, it was after my wreck. So that was probably in '89. I went down and it was Thanksgiving and got shit-faced drunk. I'll never forget that. Holy cow, Papa was making Long Island iced teas, and he wasn't shy with them. Holy cow. Baby. Oh my God.
That was my drink of choice at restaurants when I would go out.
I'd never had one before I went there and had that. And we had a blast. Me and Scotty and a couple other cousins were there, and holy cow, we got shit-faced. And yeah, it was quite the first trip down there. That was my first meeting with the LA family. I want to say it was probably the first time I was ever in LA. Right. I mean, I was 19 years old. I want to say it was probably the first time I was down there. And, so yeah, I got to meet, I think Laurel fairly soon after that, right? Started dating Scotty and
I've been with Robert on and off since 2016, the night we graduated high school.
Okay. And
1986.
Yeah, I was going to say 2016.
No, 86. Well, we've been on and off a lot. So.
Right. Yeah, and we'll talk about some of those. I mean, if you want. I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted Laurel to come in is because, we talk about the recovery side of this, and I wanted Laurel to come in to give us, obviously my daughters are going to eventually come in when I have the balls to stop being a big old baby and allow them to come in here, because it's going to be a rough one for me, right? But maybe with Laurel being here, it's kind of eased me into having my daughters in here, But I've heard Laurel talk about her stories, and she's got some stories about my drinking, so that she's going to bring up, and we'll talk about a little bit about. But, the biggest thing is the recovery of the alcoholic and watching that happen and living with that alcoholic and talking about some of those things and how it made you feel. And we were talking this morning about some things. And do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. So we brought up, early on, I forgave my dad for his alcoholism. I was in high school when I realized I took an opportunity and I studied it, wrote a paper on it, and
on alcoholism,
and educated myself. And I realized my dad has a disease, and I understood it as a disease, and I'm able to forgive him for that disease. I don't hold that against him, and I'm so proud that he finally got sober.
Wow.
That being said, I still had all the codependency issues. I had a lot of drama, which obviously brought into my marriage and completely affected my marriage. And I have to hold a lot of accountability for the fact that I never addressed those issues. And I believe that was very much why Robert and I didn't last back then. But once we separated, I started working on those issues, and because I was completely depressed. I suffer from depression.
Right.
You guys are recovering alcoholics. I'm a recovering depressed person.
Right.
I'm always going to know I have symptoms. I still have occurrences. I still have down times. I've just recognized what I need to do in those times, and I reach out.
I'd like
for
to
support.
dip into that a little bit, because I know nothing about,
Well, you sit across from a guy that suffered depression.
You know
for
what
a
I
long
mean?
time.
But most of the people that I deal with, that
Right.
have that, or is alcohol induced?
She's here.
She's not alcoholic.
No.
No, I'm codependent induced.
So talk to me. What is it? Explain that to me.
So you have low self-esteem. You're constantly dependent on somebody else's opinion. So going through a divorce was very hard for me because all I wanted to do was make his life better. That was my whole goal in life. And when he would, walk away, because that's a lot of stress to put on someone. You're putting your happiness on somebody else. I put a tremendous amount of stress on our relationship and didn't realize it. So again, I went through a lot of therapy, a lot of talking, and just worked on that. And so the reason I think we're working now is I'm no longer dependent on him for my happiness.
But take that back. I mean, think about that in our alcoholism.
Oh, absolutely.
We're the same.
People
we're the,
pleasers.
Well, 1,000%, right? And we just talked about that. Give me a second, because I mean, the more I think about that, it goes right back to this, right? Then we just read this story. Then I realized I'm going to go down. In fact, Then I realized that I had to separate my sobriety from everything else that was going on in my life. No matter what happened or didn't happen, I couldn't drink. In fact, one of the things that I was going through had anything to do with my sobriety. The tides of life flow endlessly, for better or worse, both good and bad, and I cannot allow my sobriety to become dependent on those ups and downs of living. Sobriety must live life of its own. That was extremely powerful, but it's the same way if you talk about that, your depression, right?
Absolutely.
It's a separate part of your life, and you can't allow that, right? You can't allow anything to affect that. It has to take on its own life.
I used to live in absolute fear. If I was having a good day and I was having a good week,
you're just waiting for that shoe to drop.
Exactly. I was living with complete anxiety, which of course my husband had no idea because everything's going good. Right. Why are you so stressed out? And I'm thinking, because something's going to fall. Something's going to happen. And I'm so worried about what's going to happen that I'm not enjoying the moment. So one of the things I worked through with my therapist was learning to accept that bad things were going to happen.
Acceptance.
Right.
Yes. So,
and good things are going to happen.
Good things. Right. I also like to talk about, I haven't been on, I know when I need to take an antidepressant. Right. I'm very blessed. I haven't been on them in over 10 years now. But if I need to take them again, I have no problem with them.
Because you recognize it.
I recognize it. Right. So the last time I was on them is when my mom was on complete bed rest and I was taking care of her. I recognized I was going to need something to get through that. And how do you recognize?
What do you see?
First thing I did is I went back and got therapy. Okay. The first thing I said is I'm going to be going through a tough situation. So I did, you have your EAP assistant programs that your businesses offer. I went ahead and I signed up for one of those. I talked to somebody and said, this is what I'm going through.
Proactive. I love it.
I spent a long time getting to this place. I did a lot of research, a lot of thinking. I have 4 kids. My depression was affecting them. I had to stand up and take accountability for my actions and become a better person.
Tell me what's the difference between depression and alcoholism.
Well,
now you know why I wanted her on here.
But the solution is the same. You take accountability, and then I love it.
This is why I wanted her on here.
I was on an antidepressant when I went through cancer because the chemo messed with my brain.
Yeah.
I love it. I told you it's going to be one of the better ones.
Right. Shut the fuck up. One of the things that, talking with Laurel, one of the things she said that you were angry with your mom.
Yes. So I talked to you about, so again, early on, I accepted my dad has a disease.
Right.
And he's going to get better, not get better. That is on him. He doesn't affect the fact that he loves me. I had to accept he loves me, but he's got a sickness and he's going to drink. So I also had that codependency thing where I was taking care of everybody. And one of those things I was doing was taking care of my mom. And I did that for many years. I love my mom. May she rest in peace. I'm totally at peace with her now. But what I spent a lot of time, once I was going through my divorce, going through my therapy, is realizing the person I was angry at all those years was growing up with a mom who was allowing me to be with an alcoholic parent. That mom was not taking care of me. She knew better.
She should have protected you.
She should have protected me. And having to realize that and address that and be angry with her and then let it go was one of the most healing moments of my life.
How long were you in therapy before you really got to that point?
Oh, I probably spent 6 months with my arms crossed.
Wow. Yeah, and see, that's it.
but that's still not. I mean, because I've heard more horror stories therapy wise. This is also, I love to hear this.
So I'll tell you what. You know what? I talked to Larry about this too. Yeah, we call God has unanswered prayers. My fourth son, my baby, he's my unanswered prayer. I was going through my divorce. I met somebody. I was, single, sort of, and got pregnant. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? At the time, I was severely depressed. I'm on antidepressants. And I went to the doctor. The doctor says, I'm like, I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling lightheaded. It's my fourth kid. I should have a clue, but I don't, apparently. And he goes, could you be pregnant? And I'm like, no. So, I go home and I start praying, no. And
what's the age difference between the youngest and the next up?
6 years.
Okay.
6 years.
I'd be done.
Yeah, no, I thought I was done too. But turns out I wasn't. And, my unanswered prayer was Jamie. And, well, now I'm pregnant. I'm going through a divorce. I'm miserable. And I can't take my antidepressants anymore. So I quit them cold turkey. And at the time, I was in therapy. So I started going 3 days a week and quit cold turkey. And my unanswered prayer saved my life.
How so?
Because I never went back on antidepressants until I needed them again. I started addressing things. That's when I figured out it was okay to be mad at my mom. It was okay not to have to take care of my mom. I resonate so much with what you say. One of the things you say all the time, and I hope I word this sort of correctly, is I always resonate with it, but it's you don't have to stay a bad person. You can get better.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
When I did with Eric, would you remember I told the story of Lisa with her sponsor?
Right.
When I was doing my 4-step, I looked at mine. I was like, I'm horrible. And Jay said, well, son, you don't have to stay that way.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. I resonate with it. And I'll tell you,
Top of page
I don't know if
64.
Larry knows this, and I think we've talked about it. I tried to kill myself once when my kids were little. I got it in my head they were better off without me. I'm a mess. And I know there's a lot of people who go, you'll never understand it. I ain't going to lie. I had so much clarity the day I did that. I thought this was it. I was perfect. I can't even begin. I've never felt more sane when I was doing it. I know.
When you were actually in the act of killing yourself?
Yes. In
Wow.
my brain, I never, because it all just made sense now. All those weights, all that stuff I was carrying, it was going to be gone. I was making everybody better. Well, once I woke
What an
up from that
insane
stupid
thought.
ass
Right.
cloud, I realized, hey, you're an idiot.
Right.
But now I had to live with, and I know, Larry, you talk about no regrets all the time. I've got regrets. I regret that day my 10-year-old daughter came home and found me and couldn't wake me up. And so what I resonate is that thought of, I went to therapy and I'm like, how's she ever going to get over what I did? How is she ever going to go? She goes, the good news is you're not that person anymore.
Right.
You're not going to be that person and you're going to show her by getting better.
Right.
And so that's why I resonate with that.
I think I'm very, very careful. And I say the no regrets, Laurel, and maybe this may help. I don't have regrets for this fact. I truly believe, and I'm trying to be very careful because I know where Rob is going to go with this here in a minute.
Come on, baby.
Yeah, shut up. Some of the things I did, I wish I hadn't have done.
That's
right?
a regret.
So this is a pissy match here because
I know what you mean.
regret,
I know what you mean.
Right. A regret to me is that still lives and burns inside of
something
me.
that's still we are still acting upon, something that's still driving us.
Those things that I did to Katie, those things I did to my daughters, those things that I did to employers, the things I did to other people, I wish I hadn't have done, but I did. So I'm over it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm over it. I can't live with that inside of me. I can't be mad at myself. One of the things I talked to Rob about right after I did my 4-step and started walking through those things is, how in the hell am I going to do an amends to myself? Right. How do you do that? How do you do that? And Rob says, well, you can't. You got to forgive yourself. You can't stand there in front of the mirror and give yourself an amends. You got to learn to forgive yourself. And I did. Right. And when he said that, I'm like, well, I can't. But then the more I stayed involved in my AA, the more I got involved, the more I went through my steps, the more I felt that onion. And when I say onion,
Oh yeah.
the more that shit that piled off of me, the more I realized that wasn't Larry doing that shit. That wasn't Larry doing that shit. And once I realized that, I was like, I had to let it go. I had to personally let it go. So I say I don't have regrets. That's what I mean by it, right? I do have stuff that I wish I'd never done, but they don't stay inside of me anymore. I don't live
and
with
we
those.
we can't because that's a textbook definition of a regret. Things you wish you
Correct.
hadn't done.
Right.
And I have a different outlook than Larry as far as what you just said. That was me.
Okay.
You know, that was Rob who did those things. I can't just because maybe he was drunk, maybe he was low. It doesn't matter. That was me.
But that wasn't the man you are. It's the man you were.
That's the man I was then.
Correct. That's the man you were.
And just because I don't want it, I mean,
Right.
I wish I hadn't done those things. I did them. We own it.
Right.
I own it.
Right.
We own it. And then we
Correct.
turn it over to God. Hey, can you do something with this?
Right.
As we do these steps.
Right.
I wish I didn't do those things, but I did them.
That's what I mean.
I know.
Right.
I know exactly what you
We
mean.
can't, as alcoholics, for me, if I live with those regrets, those would be resentments against myself.
Well, and guilt, shame, remorse,
Right.
all those things that we would
I
drink
can't
over.
do it.
We can't hold on to that.
Right.
Own it. Let it go. Now,
Right.
if somebody else wants to hold on to that, to
Right.
hold on to what I've done, even though I've tried to make amends to the best of my ability, I can't control. Like beautiful, she says beautifully. That's theirs
Right.
to carry or drop,
Right.
or to go to therapy over.
And that's what I said. What I said about my brother when I had my conversation with my brother. I mean, I had to be honest with him. And I'm going to ask you a question here in a minute, Laurel. I had to be honest with him that these are the things that you hurt me from. And then I think it was Brad that was here. Well, how does he deal with it? That's on him.
Yeah.
That's on him, right? How he deals with it is how he deals with it. I can't. I had to tell him how he made me feel, right? I felt abandoned. I felt I didn't have protection. I felt nobody loved me.
Kind of like the way Laurel felt with her mother.
Right.
And not the abandonment part, but the protection.
Did
Yeah.
you feel abandoned by your dad?
I never felt abandoned by my dad.
Okay.
Uh,
You were close to your dad.
Growing up, I felt like he loved booze more than me until came to an understanding. I couldn't understand why, his idea of parenting was going to work, coming home, getting drunk, and passing out.
It wasn't that he loved booze more than you. He loved self. Well, the book's going to say in page 62, we love self.
Right.
We love our family, but I love myself more. And my actions showed that.
Showed it. And your relationship with your sisters, right? One
Yeah.
sister, two sisters.
I have several, but I'm only very close to the youngest.
Okay.
So when I had children,
Okay.
most of my older brothers and sisters also have a relationship with alcohol or drugs, the older ones. And so when Robert and I started having kids, I said, this is not going to be part of their lives. I made that choice, and I was the only person I allowed into their life was my dad.
Okay.
But after he got sober.
No, he was part of their life the whole time.
Okay.
Matter of fact,
What about mom?
Mom was always there. My mom was the best with my kids. Again, I didn't even know I was mad at her until I went into therapy.
Isn't that
years
something though?
later.
You get these things, you get this healing.
I had no idea because until then she was the victim with me, and I felt bad for her.
Okay.
I was sober for almost 3 years before I realized I had that abandonment issue.
Mhm.
And it came up here on the show.
Yeah, we were right here.
Right here. Doug was sitting right there. And he was talking about how he felt.
I asked him, I go, when your mom set the suitcase, your dad's suitcase out the door, how'd that make you feel? Did you,
Yeah.
were you mad at your mother for,
Right.
you
And he goes, no, I felt abandoned by my father. And I'm like,
Yep.
oh, I mean, it just
and
hit
he
me
just
like,
realized that too. You both
we
had
at
that.
the same time. Right. We were like,
Good stuff.
wow. And that's why I said, hopefully when you get up here, because Laura was nervous to come up here. I mean, she wanted to be a part of it, but she was nervous. But you never felt abandoned by your dad, never felt that.
Not really. I mean, he made mistakes, but again, I think because I studied it so young.
How old were you when you were studying that?
16.
She said she started in high school. She
in high
wrote a
school.
paper on it.
Did you hear about it? Did you hear somebody, or did you just, I mean,
Okay, now you're in high school in the 80s.
Right.
You're about our age. You're a little
Right.
touch older than us.
Yeah, I just did some research. I had to write a paper on some medical subject, and I said, you know what? My dad's an alcoholic. Let's learn what this means.
here's the thing
And I'm
about,
going to tell you, Larry. Let me share you kind of a funny story because to me, what they said, you can have anonymous people talk in your paper. And I'm like, this is great. So every time I needed to fill something in on my paper, I would just write something that I felt.
Oh, perfect.
That's funny.
Perfect.
But it just, I guess that's the difference. I had no idea what Alcoholics Anonymous was until I never even heard of it till I got later on in life. I mean,
when I was young, because my grandfather's the one that died, they found his bones in New Mexico. Yeah.
No,
So he went to Maynard's when it first opened. So I knew, and I was a little kid, go visit him. He never stayed sober. So I kind of knew, but I didn't understand what it was, because it didn't help him.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like, how did you know about AA at such a young age?
Again, I grew up watching my brothers, my sisters, my dad, my uncles. Everybody was always drinking in my house. We were always the life of the party. We always had parties at my house.
I understand, but did you about the AA? I mean, like I said, everybody in my family was always drinking.
She didn't say anything about AA. She said she wrote a paper on alcoholism.
Okay.
I wrote about alcoholisms. I wrote about codependence. I wanted to understand.
Okay.
It was my way of trying to accept my reality, is to learn about it. The way my brain worked.
Which is super smart.
Absolutely. So you weren't drinking at all?
No, I mean,
you didn't have the high school run-ins?
Occasional. I mean, but I had rules.
Let's hear them.
Yeah, this is what I wanted her to get to right here.
Okay, so after reading this paper, and it defined alcoholics in different ways that you're an alcoholic. And this paper that I remember from years ago was, one of them is you drink to excess. One of them is you drink to get, you drink alone. I want to say, and the third one was my own personal one, just based on my childhood one. So I never drank alone. I just don't go home and have a beer. There's no reason for it. I only drink socially. I don't drink to excess. There's no point for it. I've always got a bottle of water sitting next to me. And the third one was I don't embarrass my kids, because I grew up being embarrassed a lot. So we did not have birthday parties ever where there were alcohol there. It wasn't allowed. And some people are like, why, Laurel? As it because I'm not taking a chance.
My wife did the same thing.
My kids will not be embarrassed by me.
Wow.
Oh.
That's but I don't know why I'm still stuck on you writing a paper on that in high school. I think for the simple fact, I go back to my selfish ass, right? I'm like, why on the I didn't give a fuck. I was drinking like crazy in high school. So to write a paper on alcoholism in high school to me is thinking outside. I don't know.
Well, I mean, to me, that's very mature for a 16-year-old.
Right.
Grown up in that environment. She wants to understand the environment that she's in. It's affected her so much.
Right. Because
let me understand it better.
Right.
Let me understand my
How
father.
much older
he's not
was
going to tell me.
Right. How much older was your brothers?
So I'm the youngest of 8 kids. So.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
All the same mom and dad?
Yeah. My little sister's actually younger than me. You want to hear a crazy fact?
Did you just hear what you just said? Huh? My little sister's younger than me.
Well, she is. So there's that.
Scotty.
I didn't say nothing. Scott, I got the bird. I didn't say
I
nothing.
need Scotty to be up here for that one.
He'd be like, duh.
I wanted Scotty to sit across.
Well, she's also shorter than me.
Okay, we'll take it.
Yeah, that's funny. So you talk to me about your dad at your wedding.
Okay, so Larry, one of the things, I listen to your podcast all the time, and you talked about how grateful you are that you were sober for your daughter's wedding. Right. And I just shared with you that the night of my wedding rehearsal, my dad got drunk, passed out, and did not make it. He was not there to walk me down the aisle for the rehearsal. He showed up the next day. He probably wasn't fit to be there, but he was not there for the wedding rehearsal, and that did hurt.
Did he? But he remembered your wedding. We were at the wedding, so yeah.
Whether he did or he didn't, I couldn't say. He was an alcoholic. He was probably drinking. He probably had a bottle somewhere.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, Larry. When you went into recovery, I told Katie, go check the garage.
Oh yeah.
I told her. I said, because I guarantee you, there's bottles out there. Because when my dad passed away, he hadn't drank in 10 years. We found over 13 bottles in that garage.
Scott and Laurel, when towards the end, it was probably it was the Christmas. I went in April, so they were here in the Christmas of 21. They came up because my drinking had got pretty bad, and Katie was struggling. They decided to come up here, and they spent 16 hours in a car because there was a fire or snow on something on top of the grapevine.
It was crazy weather.
They had to go all the way around and get up here 16 hours to be with Katie during Christmas because my drinking was so bad.
Now,
I want to
Laurel?
correct you,
No,
Larry.
yeah,
We
please.
didn't come up here to be with Katie. We came up here to be with you, Larry.
Okay.
so what was told to you to get you to come up here? I mean, what was told to you about him?
My husband's 50th birthday. Again, I was raised around alcoholics. I know when you are crossing a line, and I've known Larry a long time, and he was drinking to excess. His behavior was excessive. Everything I saw.
But the Larry that you knew, what changed between? What?
He was just okay. Larry's always over the top,
Yes.
but he was like on
Sober.
top of the roof and jumping off that night. He was so far over the top, and we're just like we observed it, and I'm like, Robert, there's something wrong with Larry, and he goes, I agree.
I can tell you that when it I know exactly when it changed that night is I was leaning up against the bar, and because after his 50th birthday, we went to a bar.
Okay.
And I was leaning up against the bar, and the stupid waitress kept telling me I needed to move because this is where they got to order the drinks. And I'm like, but I'm leaning up against, anyways, I was just being a dick. We ended up getting kicked out of the bar.
That was my birthday. That was a year later. He didn't even remember.
Oh, that was
the year
birthday.
before. That was the year before. I'm older than Robert.
Oh shit. I see.
So
I don't even remember
that I
something.
didn't blame you. You were defending Robert. But
Yeah,
no,
I
this was his birthday. We were over at Shannon's
That's
house.
right.
And again, no judgment, Larry.
No.
It was just an observation. Robert and I both saw it. We've known you a long time,
Right.
and we're like, something's different with Larry. Let's go find out what's going on.
Yeah.
So you drove here to find out.
Right.
Just to give him a place to talk.
And what did you find out? So what year is this? I mean, this is just
This is
21.
This is what you know. What I think that you
How
said.
old is Robert?
Robert is going to be 55 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's a year older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all the same age, except for your little ass.
I'll be 52 in 14 days, buddy.
Whatever. I'm the oldest in the room. I get it.
How? 56?
So I was curious. So what
Okay,
is?
so you came up here 16
So we
hours?
came up here because we knew something was not right, and we just wanted to give Larry the chance to talk. And Larry, being Larry, was obstinate, and he waited till the last night at like midnight to start talking about, I think I have a drinking problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I think I shared with you all of my
Right. You did.
experiences, and I was like, hey, look, I grew up with an alcoholic.
Yeah.
It's
We talked for a long time that night.
yeah. And then we had to get on the road at like 5 because we had a football game to go, but you know, it was worth it. It was Larry.
You're a good woman.
Yeah, it was one of those first times that, because towards the end, we try to quit, right? I mean, I went through like 4 and 5 times that I'd tried to quit, and I'd quit for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, but every time, I went back to drinking and went back heavier, right?
Oh yeah.
It went back heavier, and I'd stopped that after that I stopped for like 2 or 3 weeks. I think it was right up till New Year's, I made it through New Year's. I think I hid in the bedroom or something. I made it through New Year's, and I think I stayed sober for a few weeks. I don't know. Then I think I started hiding it from Katie, and she thought I was not drinking, and eventually it just, I just started drinking again. And that pretty sure is when my whiskey started, about that time.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's about the time my whiskey started, because the beer was no longer working.
So that's the last 2 years, like when you're driving to Los Banos.
Right. Yeah, that was really the start of the end for me. It was that last when. Actually, no, I'm wrong, because I was on the whiskey pretty heavy even at Scotty's birthday. I was hiding it. I was on the whiskey at Scotty's birthday.
Yeah, he thought he was hiding.
No, let me verify that. I wasn't hiding it at the party, because at the parties things are out in the open, right? So I was drinking whiskey at that. What I mean is I was drinking whiskey around the house, mixing it with my beer. It became my daily, alcohol, the beer stopped working. Right. The beer stopped working. So.
I want to say too, I probably that night recognized something, like maybe just innately, like my dad could go from 0 to drunk.
Right.
And I think I saw that in you that night.
Right. And I didn't really remember. I've said this multiple times. I didn't drink to get drunk. Right. I did not. That's not not my thing to do. I did not
like feeling drunk.
I did not. I couldn't stand the feeling of losing control. My lips not working. My legs not working.
I just couldn't stop. I get to that spot and I just couldn't, the phenomenon of craving take over, and then,
Yeah. But then the depression really started to kick in after that. Those last 2 years of the depression was was brutal, right? That's when I started going, when I tried to quit so many times and I couldn't, that's when I was like, fuck, I'm a worthless piece of shit.
Yeah, and you start beating yourself up, and
right.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
And I don't know the difference between clinical depression or depression. I don't know, but like what we do to ourselves, beating ourselves up constantly, you know, because I was the same, you know, when I tried to, but I there's no way I could stay for 2 weeks. When I tried to quit a few times, didn't even make it that long. I would find the reasons, you know, to rationalize, justify, or minimize. Anyway, do we bring depression on ourselves? Did you do it being codependent? Did we do it through our alcoholism? You know, and just
it's a great question.
I have to believe part of it's chemical. I 100% agree with that. It's chemical imbalance, but I think
I do not disagree with that.
But I've seen a lot of people that come in, and I've sponsored them, who were on medication, got sober, and been, you know, 5, 10, 12 years. Now, you know, they didn't have to go back on it. This, you know, and the guy. So that's why I said, I'm not saying all of the cases, but some of them were alcohol.
So, you know, again, you know,
but yours isn't. Yours wasn't.
My dad was an alcoholic my whole life. The first time I can remember being suicidal, I was 13.
Wow.
So I think there is that chemical imbalance. It built up in me a long time, but I think talking about it, and again, we talked about crossing our arms. Like I used to talk with my arms crossed all the time in defense. And now you just learn the tools like, oh, I'm getting defensive. Why am I being defensive? You start thinking about it. You analyze it.
You do inventory.
Right.
And I try to figure out why. And there are some days when I'm just like, I've had a bad day. I'm going to be in a bad place. And I'll tell my people around me, like, this is where I'm at today. And don't let me stay there, you know? And so usually that's all I need. I usually just need, okay, just let me go to my room. Let me read a book. Let me stay out of the way.
But you haven't had a pill in 10 years, you said?
No, I have not had an antidepressant in 10 years.
She controls it, right? Same way we control our alcoholism. I mean,
God does mine. You stay.
Yes.
Right. God.
Right.
You stay. You do what it takes to keep your serenity.
My serenity is by
so
far
you stay close to God.
Yeah.
You do these things to stay close to God because that keeps your serenity. Right. I guess I do the same thing. I mean, I live this. I mean, but I love what I do. Right. I mean, I don't do anything I don't want to do. Fuck, if I don't go do this, I'm not going to stay sober. I don't think about drinking. I love the life that I live. I love being sober, and I do what I love, and it just happens. You know, just a ancillary benefit of that. I stay sober.
Right. So and
happy.
But did you fight anxiety when you were?
Yes, like a mother.
So you did. Oh, right. Yeah. Was your stomach? My anxiety.
A couple times I had to go to the hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack. I didn't know what it was. Yeah. Oh, and then they said it's a panic attack. I said, what?
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Did you? I mean, obviously, I know the answer to this, but how often did your anxiety and your depression make you feel like you're having that heart attack where your anxiety is just so bad?
Don't think I ever felt heart attack.
Wow. Okay.
But it was just complete shutdown. I mean,
see, that's opposite.
There were days when I was just in a ball, and I you know how much I love my kids.
Yeah,
Larry. You know they are my life,
Absolutely.
and there were days when I was not functioning as a parent, and I just couldn't pull myself out of it. So again, I have to go back to that unanswered prayer, that last pregnancy, and just spending 3 days a week for probably 2 years in therapy, just actually dealing with my issues, finding out what they are, and getting help.
Yeah.
And Jamie is a kick in the ass too, if you ever get around him.
That one.
How old is Jamie? How old is Jamie?
He's 24.
Yeah. He's hilarious. Yeah. So, I mean, the way you talk about your depression is the way we handle our,
the way she has dealt with it is, and the way we deal with ours is this.
And we've said it so many times that this book, the way we do things, you change it's isms, right? It's our isms of what we do. Anybody could go through these steps, but you know what? And Jenny said it when she was here. It's just being a natural human being, right? But we
try to be the best version of a human being is what it is, and I fail,
right?
And that's why my happiness is not tied to, like you talked about, you know, as far as being depressed,
right?
My happiness is not tied to my success because I'm going to fail. You know, I try not to fail the same ways I did here, and I don't. But you know, so my happiness is just tied to being awake,
right? Right, and my sobriety is tied to my serenity that I keep. Right, I know that I'll never drink. I I mean, I have some very anxious moments, especially with the job change and everything else. I mean, I'm not sleeping at all because I up in my office typing reports, or I'm reading reports.
But isn't that a different kind of anxiety that we used to feel?
So it's not, but understand this, it's not an anxiety though, right?
Okay.
It's not an anxiety because in my mind, and I was just telling somebody this, and Laurel, you may have this, right? For me to keep my anxiety away and to keep my depression away, I got to keep this thing above my ears busy. When that thing above my ears starts get into idle mode, it's not a good place for me.
Eventually, you'll be able to just.
Eventually, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, and when I get to but even in those high thought process moments, the anxiety, the peace that I have inside me is incredible, right? And what I have so differently now with this job that I didn't have, because basically I'm doing the same thing I was doing when I was drinking. I had the same job title, but now I'm able to control. Let me rephrase that. I'm able to function without that anxiety ridden inside of me. So I'm not biting people's heads off. I'm not demanding. I'm leading, right? I'm leading, not managing. That's a big one for me. So those are things that are just so much better for me. And it's because everything's firing for me, right? So for me now is I want people to be successful based off of what I'm able to teach them, right? Not what I tell them to do, right? To watch somebody be successful from what I teach them is incredible. That's what keeps his brain happy. So when I say I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm not sleeping, that's it, right? I'm writing reports. I'm trying to help other people out. Now, will that subside? Absolutely, it will.
It will eventually.
It will, because
But you know what I'm talking about? That alcoholic fear that Pat talks about, just that overwhelming sense of fear that would come on like out of nowhere,
right?
Or depression or anxiety, but not so much depression. It'd be anxiety and fear.
That's why I drink.
Those things are gone,
right? That's why I drink, was to get those things out.
But eventually, those fuckers learn to swim. Right. And drinking didn't help.
Right.
Well, I think that goes back to me saying, that I had that overwhelming anxiety when everything's were going good. I had to learn to accept that bad things were going to happen.
Early sobriety, I had that. We talk about acceptance. On page everybody reads 417. Acceptance was the answer. I had a hard time, and when people talk about acceptance, they always use it in a bad connotation, or it has a bad connotation. You're accepting something bad. I had a hard time in sobriety early accepting the good things.
That's me.
I don't deserve this. I look after, and again, I wasn't an angel and I wasn't the devil. I was human. I've been like most people that I've sponsored, but I don't deserve this. So I'm going to hold on to it loosely and not really enjoy it because I don't deserve it. And it's going to go away anyway. And that's bullshit. I mean, this too shall pass, but enjoy what is there. I've enjoyed moments going through cancer. AA has taught me how to enjoy stuff.
That's probably one of the things I love most about not being on antidepressants anymore.
Is what?
I enjoy feeling good.
Yeah, right.
When you're on an antidepressant, you just feel numb. I mean, you don't feel up, you don't feel down, you just feel numb. But you're able to function, and that's what's good about them. Right. But now when I'm happy, and I enjoy it, and I wouldn't go back. So,
Laurel, I wanted to read this because we've talked about it 2 or 3 times. This is on page 417 from our big book. And this is not this. So when we talk about our big book, it's 164 pages, right? The first 164 pages of the big book. This is actually a story in the back, page 417. It says, when I stopped living in the problem and began living in the answer, the problem went away. From that moment on, I have not had a single compulsion to drink. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of life unacceptable to me, and I can find no serenity until I accept that person, that place, that thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be, and there's at that moment, right? And and when I read that right there about day 21, day 22 of my rehab. And when I read that, and because my counselor told me to read that, I realized that all the years of trying to control my anxiety, all the years of trying to control other people, all the things that person, place, situations, or things that I was trying to do was creating that anxiety in me. And I got that first hint of serenity in my heart and in my belly and in my brain. And it was better than any drug, any alcohol, any situation that I'd ever been in my life. And I chase that daily now. Daily, I chase that serenity. And there ain't a goddamn thing that's going to take that
and
away from me.
when mine's not there,
Right.
it's in me. There's something off in me. When something's pissing me off, or the world is as it's supposed to be right there at that moment. Doesn't mean everything's great, but there's something in me that's not sitting right. Why? And I got to figure out what it is.
Right. So, I mean, when that crops up, right. And I feel like I'm still on the show, but I don't give a shit. When that crops up, because it literally, I've been going through it, right? A certain person at my job who's got one of the owners, I apologize if this gets out, but one of the owners, I struggle with him, right? I struggle with him. And Katie was asking me the other day, like, and I said, you know what, Katie, it's not him, it's me, right? It's his company. It's his personality. It's who he is. It's what he is. So everything I'm fighting, it's just me.
Right.
It's 1,000%.
And it's awesome that you recognize it, because before we didn't recognize it.
No, he was a no good rotten
fault.
son of a bitch
That's
before.
Right. And I'm going to drink at him.
Right.
I'm going to do some mad at my boss drinking.
I got to stop and get him a fucking beer because that guy done pissed me off. Well, it ain't his fucking fault. Why?
It's like the little prick on the Prius on the freeway as I was driving back, doing 50 miles an hour, can't get around the cocksucker. I want to run him off the road. You get upside, and it's not. It's a female looking at her phone. Every time.
Not every time.
Almost.
Too funny.
Prius drivers. Now Tesla drivers.
Right.
I got a bone. We got to do a whole topic on that. Idiots on the freeway.
That is
How do you stay
funny.
sober?
But I mean, those are the things. And I don't think it, but going back to Laurel, right?
Dude, I'm so impressed with what you've done from the age of 16, investigating. I didn't have that kind of maturity. I don't have that kind of maturity now, but but you've done this, everything that we did, but just
I think because again, you as a younger sibling, you always see the older ones, and it's like, okay, I knew how not to get in trouble because I saw how they got in trouble.
Right.
So I think I had that mentality of, okay, what do I not do so that I don't do that? So I just think I wanted to learn about it because I saw it in my life, and I'm like, I'd read it's hereditary. I'm like, okay, I don't want that in my life. So I just learned about it. And, again, I had a lot of examples of what not to do in front of me.
But how many people have examples in front of them?
I followed it.
Yeah, so did I.
Because
I followed
it may have bit you, but
Right.
it won't bite me.
Right.
Here's how.
Right.
And
Yeah, but you maybe have one or two. I had 6 older brothers and sisters.
Did you see? but did you see traumatic things in your life in that stuff? Because none of my stuff was traumatic.
you still had your battles to fight, though. I mean, you had battles.
I definitely had battles, and I'm still fighting my battles, and I still have bad days.
But you just said what you said right there is extremely crucial. I'm still fighting my battles today, right? Same as our recovery. We're recovered, but we're still.
I'm just not fighting the alcohol,
Right.
the obsession.
Right.
I'm fighting
Right.
myself.
Right.
I'm just trying to be a better man. What am I fighting?
I can't go back enough to the bad days are going to happen. That was probably the biggest epiphany of my life, because when I do have those bad days, I can tell myself it's a bad day. It's going to pass.
Right. But Rob, and I love how she says it. It's just being a bad day. But we say this all the time. We never have a bad day.
I have hard days.
I have hard days, right?
I agree with that. It's
Yeah.
Some days
say
are easier
that
than
wrong.
others, but every day that I wake up is a great day.
Right.
I'm grateful for it because I'm on borrowed time. I should be dead a few times over.
Right.
Cancer should have killed me. It almost did.
Yeah.
And my drinking should have killed me, but it didn't.
And Laurel, you said something a minute ago too, that when I know I'm just a prick, I'll tell my whole family. I'm an asshole today. I promise you.
Like they did that, don't they? We know. We can tell.
We can see.
But it's the same thing Laurel says. Hey, I'm having one of those days, so you know where it's coming from.
You have them.
Oh yeah.
I know. I mean, I've talked to you on some days where you're just fucking on the edge, and
by the time I get home, I mean, they're gone.
Right.
Because I leave that shit with you guys.
Right.
Or I'll do it like I had to do with Aaron. I was going to rip my boss's head off, little prick. and just arrogant, but so insecure. His arrogance is because of his insecurity.
Right.
I call him textbook now. That's his new nickname because he'll argue with the book's wrong. What is that book published? 2021. Oh, that book, that kind of thing. So I called Aaron. I got a resentment. He goes, let me guess. He says his name. Yep. And it affects go through just the whole 4-step. It affects what was your part? And I told him my part. We prayed, gone. I don't want to sit there. And I'm damn sure not going to take it home to my wife. She doesn't deserve that. So I get rid of it on the road.
Laurel, do you have resentments? Do you know what those are?
Well,
unforgiveness, basically.
No, I've been able to put those in the past with all my therapy. I had resentment. I resented my mom not taking. I didn't know I had it. Like I said, I resented. I'll give you a description of one of the. My mom, knowing my dad was an alcoholic, but needing her peace, felt it was okay to put me and my younger sister in a car with him and send them out for the day.
So she could have her time.
Meanwhile, I was taking care of my little sister. I was terrified that we were going to get in a car accident. He was going to drink too much. I grew up in a bar. I mean, the Stagger Inn was like a second home to me. I knew everybody there.
Stagger Inn. I wish Michael was here because did you happen to listen to my podcast that Michael was on?
I'm not sure.
He grew up in Long Beach and he mentioned a bunch of bars and I was like, I can't wait for Scott and Laurel to listen to this.
I had heard some of the bars he talked about.
Yeah. So I'm like, because he grew up, he got sober in Long Beach.
Stagger Inn closed when my dad got sober.
What year was that?
That was years ago.
Probably ran out of money.
It was down the street from Papa and Papa's house. It was really close to the house.
But you living in that constant fear of, in a car with taking care of your little sister, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Then all of a sudden you're out in a sunshiny day, but you still have that. What's going to happen next?
What's going to happen next?
Not being able to enjoy.
Right.
I can remember times going, Dad, wake up, the light's green.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, yeah,
you think that wouldn't affect a child? I mean,
that's
what
trauma.
that would do, I mean,
No.
but most of them don't do what you did. Hopefully they turn into one of us and find this. But more oftentimes than not, they turn into one of us and they don't find this. I'm so impressed with you.
Well, I didn't turn into an alcoholic, but I did have depression.
But you did the same thing we did. You went and found solutions and you owned.
I think I got help, but I had to hit my rock bottom.
Yeah.
I had to be found by my 10-year-old daughter after I tried to kill myself.
Yeah.
And how did you try? What was your mode of transportation out of here?
I again got to understand, in my brain it was the most calm, reasonable thing. So I started taking some Xanax at work. I went and picked up the kids at my mom's, took a couple more there, drove them over to my in-laws, dropped them off, and then went home and took some more. And their dad dropped them off at my house later. And again, a lot of depression, a lot of stuff. You're manipulative. Whether I was being manipulative that day or not, I don't think I was. But I never thought my daughter was going to be the one who opened the door and found me. I will admit, I figured it was going to be someone else.
Pills was your way out. You're gonna
Okay. So I planned it. So by the time I took those last ones, I was ready to go.
I know.
This breaks my heart.
I know a lot of. I don't know anybody.
It's all good. I survived, and like you say, I learned from it and
learn from it, grow from it, move.
I grow from it, and
because anybody that's been an alcoholic, I mean, that's one of us that doesn't know that we haven't. I've been there.
I know, but I think the reason why
I've been, just like try to shut it up. So I understand. I'm glad you were not successful.
I'm glad I'm not too. And I was very blessed. I had a very good therapist. It's weird signing a contract on weird things, but this therapist made me sign a contract that said if I ever felt like that again, I had to call her. And I called her twice.
I think
that phone,
that's the phone. It's a 50-pound phone is what we call it in AA, right? It's
accountability. And you've said that word about yourself and you held yourself accountable. That's awesome.
I think the reason why, Laurel, that is, once again, the depression of our alcoholism, I'm going to say of mine.
Your darkness that you talk about.
Darkness that I was in, right? That's the way I can explain it. Only way I can explain where I was at. That darkness that I was in, when I hear you say those things, it takes me back to that. And it's one of those, it's good. No, don't. No, yeah,
it's good. It's good to remember where we came from.
Absolutely. It's fine for me to remember where that comes from. Mm-hmm. But what hurts me, and I say this to we talked about, we had a friend just go back out again. I don't mourn the loss of that friend going, right? That's he made the decision to go out and drink again. What I mourn is that depression, that disease, and that we don't have anything to help with that disease. You know, alcohol is cunning, baffling. It's powerful, right? Patient. Yeah, it'll wait. So is depression. Oh, yeah. It's cunning, baffling. Depression will sneak up, right? You said it in the beginning, and I know it too. I can feel it. Right? I can fucking feel it.
And when we feel it, we act upon it.
Yes.
Well, I don't feel the depression.
I'm going to say the only thing that saved me from being alcoholic with my depression was my rules.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because I would not drink alone. I had that rule. And you know how many times I got depressed and it was like, oh man.
And you didn't lower your bar though. Here's the thing about it, right?
No, she's stuck with
hey, there was a period of time where I wouldn't drink before noon, right? Oh, yeah. I would never drink before noon. I lowered that bar. There was a lot of times where I wouldn't drink while I was working. I lowered that bar. You know, towards the end, I was drinking 24 hours a day. I didn't give a fuck where I was at. I didn't give a shit. Right. I got to the point where my body was dependent on it. Right. So you never lowered your bar, which is impressive to me.
I can't explain it. I set those rules. I just stuck with them.
Good for you. But anyways, so yeah, when you talk about the depression and that dark, for me, it's the only way I can explain it to people.
But when you talk about the darkness, we all know because we've been there.
We do, but
and it's just the
purpose of this podcast is those people that are sitting there or listening and may think they're having a problem.
You don't have to stay there.
You don't have to stay.
But you do
inside.
have to take action. Am I right, Laurel?
You have to take action. You have to get help. And you are wanted. You are necessary. You are important.
Right.
Absolutely. And you can find the best sponsor. You can find the best therapist. If you don't do the work like she did and take accountability, it doesn't matter who you've got in front of you.
And I want to say, because I went through I saw a therapist. I saw a psychiatrist. I went through many that did not help me. Many just wanted to give me drugs.
Okay, so
find the right fit.
Let's stay there for a minute, because a lot of the people that I've sponsored went through a plethora and got no help. What was your criteria? What did you do when you said, okay, I'm not? And again, there are some people, Laurel, that'll stay with a bad, and I'm going to say bad sponsor, poor sponsor,
right?
Because they're afraid that they want to hurt their feelings. And meanwhile, they're putting their lives in jeopardy.
100%.
What was your criteria that this guy's done or she's?
I have to go back to God was looking out for me. He got me pregnant when I didn't want to be pregnant, and I had to quit the drugs. I had to quit the antidepressants and had to work on my things. Prior to that, I was seeing psychiatrists, and psychiatrists have their purpose, but most of them just want to give you a prescription and go on to the next patient. Okay, and that was not fixing my problem. That was numbing me. It wasn't making me a good parent. I wasn't enjoying my life. I was existing. I got pregnant and I had a good therapist, and she was making me talk about my problems. I was going to not only therapy, I was also doing twice, but I was also doing group therapy, which is totally different. I guess that was my version
meeting.
of AA.
All right.
Again, I shared with Larry. I'll share a story in a minute that I'm sure you'll appreciate. But that was my saving grace. My gift from God, my unanswered prayer.
You were able to get off the medication long enough to realize, holy crap, this is just...
There's more going on than just that. And I got to that point where I was able to talk about what was driving me to be depressed, which was carrying this weight of trying to take care of my parents and my family and not really being able to feel happiness.
Carrying a burden that you didn't have to carry.
I didn't know, but I didn't know.
Was never yours to carry to begin with.
Yeah, and I love my mom. May she rest in peace. But she was a lot. She put a lot on me and my little sister. She was codependent, and she put her dependence on me and my little sister, bringing her joy. And that was a lot of weight and burden for us to carry that we didn't realize we were carrying.
Right.
Isn't it crazy that we don't realize these things? You know, it's just
but how many people like Laurel are not us? They're not drunks. You know, they may never find this. They never was going to push them, but they're living in that
shithole.
This could help.
Right.
How many times we say this wouldn't hurt my grandmother?
Right.
I know she's dead, but if she was alive, this wouldn't hurt her. Because we're all carrying isms. We're all carrying something.
Right.
Not all of us. A lot of people are that don't have to. Get some help. Look at it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and I want Laurel
Let's hear some stories.
Tell Rob the group therapy stories because I love what she tells.
Okay, so I was telling her, so group therapy, you know, I was in it probably 2 or 3 years. And every time a new person would come in, every single time a new person came in, they would start with, my life is great, if only my husband. And the entire rest of the group would go, ugh.
The victim.
The victim. Oh.
I don't want to say the victim. It was just the realization that, you know, you're dependence, right? You're making your happiness dependent on someone else. And, they hadn't got there yet.
That's why I give them the shit sandwich metaphor, you know. And then, and then they would acknowledge, oh, you're right. Okay, so what part of that sandwich are you making? Right. Let's take your husband out of it and pretend your husband's perfect. Right. Where are you at fault? And the victim will show up when they'll say, yeah, but. Yes, I did this, but. They'll start saying but. Then I roll my eyes. That's
a parenting 101. I used to tell my kids, you can't apologize with the word but following it. You apologize or you don't. You don't say, I'm sorry, but.
Yeah, you own it or you don't.
Did you ever when you came to a part, Laurel, in your recovery from depression, did you get to a part where they asked you what your part was in any of this? I mean, was that ever a part of your therapy?
It's been years. Okay. I can't say for sure.
Well, she said her accountability. She was, you know.
Okay.
I own where I went.
Which is the same thing.
So to that extent, we'll go back to my failed relationship with my husband. Right. I mean, as we know, we're back together, but for the first
he's downstairs. They're back together.
I met him. That's why I'm
so for the first 5 years of our separation, everything was his fault because he had the audacity to leave. And now I can look back and go, how did he stay so long? I was a nutcase.
Or drunk.
But
say it any way you want, right?
Most people don't get that far, right? Because they just want to look and they just want to blame. They don't want to own it, and that's why the next relationship they're in fails. The next relationship they're in, what's the common denominator? You.
I can't imagine how it was for, and you know, maybe get him out or something. I don't know if you will, but what was it like for him to feel that burden of my happiness? Because that's what I was putting on him constantly, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's the
heavy
same thing. I was putting
what a load to carry,
right? And I was putting the burden of my alcoholism on Katie. I mean, you know, thank God for Laurel, because when I went into recovery,
unfiltered, baby.
Yeah, Laura was the one that kept Katie together. So,
told you're a good woman.
I try.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and just so when this goes out, I need to know when this because this episode's fucking going out.
Right. No, I'm not doing this. Not doing this for not.
No, but we had talked about. You know,
well, I even told Laurel if it doesn't go anywhere, we won't let it go.
But if it does go out, it will. There's two. One being my wife, but there's a few women I want to hear this. Right. This is so good. I do would be one of the best.
Yeah, and I've wanted to get. You know, Laurel, I've said this from the very beginning. I wanted you here because you brought that depression side of it. And here's the thing I love about it. She recovers out loud with her depression, same way I recover out loud with my alcoholism.
And what she got with her therapy and with finding a good therapist. And here's something I want to say, like what I did with cancer. I was my own advocate.
Yeah.
Because this showed up a year before. You know, and then met my wife. But you were your own advocate. You didn't state, well, this is my therapist. Go find it. If one's not working, if someone just wants to shove pills down you, go find something else. But sometimes medication, like you said, does help. Right. You know, but be your own advocate. Don't settle.
Oh, for sure.
Don't settle.
Right. Yeah.
But what we found in this, you've also done. I mean, the same steps you take, the same way.
I hear it all the time. That's one of the reasons I enjoy your podcast so much. Is I resonate with it so often. Right. I haven't done all your steps. I don't know what they are.
But you're owning it, and you recognize, and you don't. Right. You don't settle.
And I think that's one thing, and Jenny said it too, right? She hasn't literally sat down and walked through these steps, but I mean, where she's at, she's done the steps, right? And I mean, we could sit here and banter back and forth, well, you know, and some hardcore AA guys are going to say, well, she didn't do the steps, right? But
she also is not what I would say. This is just my. She didn't hit the bottom. The bottom came up and hit her.
Right.
Her and Jason met, and she's like. He was like, she saw that. I'm headed that way.
Right.
So let's like that hard drinker who can stop or moderate, given sufficient motivation. There you go.
Right.
Awesome. And she's living these principles.
And she's
walking these principles. No, she didn't do the steps as we did, but she's living the principles, much like.
Right. So I'm going to talk for a minute. I'm going to find the promises. I wanted to read the promises because I want her.
72 up. No,
it's
89. 89.
So I want to read the promises because I want her.
If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. So we're going to know a new freedom.
We talk about. We will
not regret the past.
It's not 89. God bless.
I always fuck it up. It's 83.
You idiot.
It's 83.
Fuck. I'm just amazed you're sharing a brain right here. Yeah.
So when you went through your recovery, I want to read our promises, right? Because we talk so often about once we go through this recovery, right? Once we start going through this, the promises, and we talk about the AA promises, and here they are. So if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom. That's 1. A new happiness. 2. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the 3, nor shut the door on it. Right? We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. God, I love that one. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others.
Stop. That's why the things we wish we hadn't done. Yeah, we wish we hadn't done, but we did them. The reason we don't regret them anymore is right there.
Correct.
Because we see how those experiences, I've used those.
Helping other people.
To help others.
Yes.
I would agree. I'm very vocal about my experiences because I want, if I can help one person, if one person hears me.
Right.
Because I did this, as Deborah's 25 years ago is when I tried to do this.
Right.
I've had 25 great years.
You've lived these promises, I promise you.
So 25 great years, and one person here needs to hear that, go get help, go find somebody to talk to.
And don't settle.
Right. Don't settle.
Finish.
That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises?
You bet your ass they are. You bet your ass they are extravagant, but they do come true.
So we talk about those promises, and knowing you, as long as I've known you, Laurel, and not knowing these promises until I got sober, but watching your life change once you got through that depression part and you started putting in your steps and started doing your work and watching all those promises come into your life, same way they came into my life once I turned all that. See, I turned all mine over to the care of God, right? Right there. I let go of it every morning. Take this, Father. I can't. It's
better in your hands anyway.
Right.
Just keep that freaking Prius out in front of me and we're good.
Take all this because I can't,
But come on. But there are times, and I know Laurel does too. There are times where I give it to him and I'll take it.
I don't know. Yeah, let me deal with that.
You go help that person. I can handle this. It's not a big deal.
It's a little too much.
I fuck it up.
Too much for you, God, today. I've already dumped all this on you. I'm going to go ahead and handle
I'll
that
handle
one.
This one, boy. Watch me go.
Right. Anyways, but what do we eventually, and I struggle with that for the longest time. I'm going to hold on to this one. I'm going to hold on to this one. And I still do from time to time. But my God, the reward that comes to us when we just go, it ain't mine.
Hey, and there are some things we are supposed to handle. We don't pray for a fucking hole if you're leaning on a shovel.
Right.
God's going to start digging some.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, 1,000%.
I'll be back when you're done.
Right.
When you really need me.
1,000%. Well, Laurel, you.
This was fucking awesome.
I told you, I told you this was going to be good.
This was good.
I knew it was going to be. That's why I've been after Laurel. How do you feel, Laurel?
I feel good. I feel
you were nervous.
Unburdened. Of course, I was very nervous.
Right.
I wasn't sure what I was going to bring because I knew I wasn't going to talk about my dad's alcoholism that much because I don't feel like it affected me when I was younger. It still affects me. I will say, I have a girlfriend who every time she calls me, all she wants to do is talk about the embarrassing things my dad did. So I don't want to talk to her. I'm like,
so she's more burdened by it than you are.
no, she thinks it's hilarious. It cracks her up. But I'm like, I put that in my past. I'd like to forget about
you
it.
lived it.
I lived it. Yeah. It wasn't funny to me that day he did that.
Yeah. What did you say about the kiddie pool?
Okay, so we'll finish on the kiddie pool. Okay, so if you can imagine those streets where they dead ended somebody's house. Yeah. My house was that street that they dead ended. So Larry talked about being an embarrassing drunk, and I said, "Hon, you never embarrassed your kids unless you lived in that house and you passed a street dead drunk in the kiddie pool."
In the front, and everybody driving by looking at
it.
Yeah, that was my dad.
Yeah.
Anyway. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bellflower.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and again, my dad was a great dad. Huh?
My Bonnie grew up in Downey.
Downey, which is right next door. That's where Scotty grew up.
Yeah, he grew up in
Paramount. I call him Scotty. Everybody else is Robert.
We got to get her tell her story where her dad suicide by car. Anyway.
That's the worst.
Anyways, Laurel, it's awesome. I knew it was going to be awesome. So Laurel's here for a couple days. She's here through Thanksgiving, and I'm so excited. I love it. When I say this is Scott and Laurel's room, that's their room. This is what they used to come here and stay in a hotel in Turlock, and I would get so pissed.
About 1 o'clock in the morning, grab the headboard stuff.
Oh no, it's the train, man. The train.
They would stay in Turlock, right next to the train track. I don't know.
We only
I
did that one time because
it
was not a good night's sleep.
I was so pissed when they came here and we're staying in Turlock. I got a whole freaking upstairs that nobody sleeps in, for God's sake. So that's Scott and Laurel's room in there. That's the honeymoon suite we call it.
That's right. I'd rock that headboard. Keep them awake all night.
Oh, I don't know about all that.
Well, we are at an age.
All right.
I'm still good.
Laurel, so thank you. Hey, listen.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Hey, if you want to reach out to Laurel, reach out to me, recoveryunfilteredpodcast at gmail.com. I'll get you in touch with her. We talk about it. I preach about it because it's such a miserable thing, and that's depression, right? It's that depression. I hid mine with alcoholism, with drinking. Laurel hid hers at a different way. We all hide it. The depression of this disease is just, I can't even begin to describe the feeling that when you come out of it, right? That feeling, that light, the everything that you begin to appreciate when you come out of that depression, the weight of all that coming off.
When it breaks, just to see that, okay,
there
is a light.
When it breaks.
There is a light. Just that little crack
is
enough. Then that's when we kick the door open.
A little bit of something to reverse the darkness. And I'm going to say that till I'm blue in the face, right? It took a little bit of something to reverse the darkness. And then once I saw the light, I went chasing after it. And I'm like,
I'm still chasing.
God, yeah.
That's what I heard someone in the meeting piss me off. A newcomer talking about that they're on this young lady said she's on the pink cloud, then some old crusty. And I talked to him, and this is the one time, this was a Friday. And I pulled him aside after the meeting because he had said, yeah, well, it won't last. And it just broke her. So I took her on after the meeting, said, if you get knocked off the pink cloud, climb back on. I'm 13 and a half years sober. I'm on top of it right now. Right. I talked to the old cocksucker. Said, if you ever do that again, and I'm in a meeting, we might have more than words. Don't ever do that to a young. Don't ever do that to anybody.
Nobody.
But you damn sure don't ever take that joy away from someone.
Never.
You old cocksucker. Go get happy.
Right. That's
I like it.
I've heard it before. I've heard that same thing. You're going to get knocked off of it. And those, and Rob
and you
says
will.
it will.
But climb back on.
Right.
I do.
Anyways,
Spur that son of a bitch.
Acceptance.
Acceptance. Right. Bad days are going to happen. Right. Bad times are going to happen.
Hard days.
Yeah, Rob.
I'm a stickler for
Let's
words.
go with bad moments.
Yeah. Moments.
And they reverse.
But when we were back there, those moments, I thought those moments weren't going to end. This will never end. So I make that moment. Say, this is going to last.
But we drink. But you know what? Us alcoholics, we drink to be happy. We drink to be sad. We drink on bad days. We drink good days.
That's why there's no
drink.
That's why there's no triggers for alcoholics.
Right. Everything.
Bank account full, drink. Bank account empty, drink. Wife's happy, drink.
Right.
We drank because we're alcoholic. It was an inside job.
Right. And I felt bad for Brian the other night. Brian listens to these, right? When Brian said, he's thinking about it, he's struggling. Right. And I said, Brian, it's your first holiday. It's your first holiday. Not triggers, brother. Not triggers. Just recognize that.
Yeah.
Right? Recognize and understand
that's right.
that.
Thanksgiving's coming up. And
Right. It's Thanksgiving. It's Christmas. It's New Year's. It's all the holidays when the family get together and we joy and we blah, 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 blah. Hey, my first one was fucking miserable after I got sober. I was fucking struggling. But you know what? I got through it sober. And I realized after I got through it, that was fucking dumb. Because I just lost a holiday with my family because I was fucking white knuckling it.
Then 417 comes up and there's nothing wrong out here. I'm supposed to be enjoying this. Go be the light. Go be salt and light.
Yeah, I'll never forget the first January 7th or whatever it was. I was like, what the fuck I just went through these holidays, my whole family laughing, enjoying, having a good time, and I was fucking pouting. Stupid. I ain't never doing that again. Right? Never. Ever. I love my fucking holidays. I love my family.
It's my favorite one coming up.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. I just love it, and it's and I enjoy it.
I like watching my wife eat because she takes the only way she'll eat. She makes we get the rolls. Everybody loves the rolls, and she'll put her stuffing, the turkey. She won't eat Thanksgiving dinner, but she makes little sandwiches. That's her Thanksgiving sandwich. I just like watching it.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you,
Laurel,
Laurel.
I love you. I love you. I love you. But we're out of here. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you learned something today that will help you.
If you did not, come back next week and we'll try again.
If you like what we heard, give us a 5-star review. If you don't like what you heard, kiss my... You can't say that, can you? Anyway, if you don't like what you heard, go ahead and tell us that too. We'll see what we can improve. We probably won't change nothing, but do it anyway.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Come back next week and hopefully something will be different and something will sink in. Take care.
This has been Recovery Unfiltered.